Hello everyone and welcome back to Send It's Weather channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at the 10-day to 16-day forecast. We're going to be looking at the main models as we always do, and around the Saturday-Sunday mark this week there is the potential for quite a potent and cold northerly. Now obviously there's the devil's in the detail and the models are varying, but we'll take a look at the general trend. We'll have a look at the ensembles, which is all the runs collated together. I'm not sure why I'm holding a pen. I'm a busy guy. We'll have a look at the ECM runs, what the scenarios are for the next 10 and 16 days. And then we'll finally take a look at these ones, the 2 meter temps, which you've just seen, just see what things are looking, and we'll just generally have a little look. So if you enjoy my content, then please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to my channel. We are only about 7 subscribers away from 500 subscribers, so I'd greatly appreciate it if you considered subscribing. You don't have to, you can always unsubscribe. Leave a comment down below of things I can improve on as well. I appreciate any comments I get. So, from the outset, we're looking on Tuesday, the 3rd of December, with the GFS run. This is the American model, with low pressure towards Greenland and high pressure is toppling to the south, and winds are in from a typical westerly flow. Now, as you can see, over the coming days, Wednesday into Thursday, this low pressure system could bring some quite wet and windy weather into northern and central parts of Britain as it clears through to the east. Winds turn into more of a northwesterly, but it's not particularly cold. The air masses are slightly around average. Obviously, this could actually be quite a bad storm Thursday into Friday, and especially for northern areas. But obviously, things will have to be settled down there. Another quite deep area of low pressure, dartboard low, moves across the country through Friday into Saturday. It's looking zonal at this point, with milder and cooler air masses intervening. But as you've just seen there, high pressure begins to ridge out into the Atlantic. Mid-Atlantic ridge. Low pressure moves out towards Scandinavia, and winds drag in from a very cold northerly direction. There is always variations in this, but the -5 line gets in, and eventually a very cold air mass moves in, the -10. Now what you have to remember with this is high pressure is just out to the west, and winds are in from quite a potent northerly direction. So definitely snow shower potential in the north and the east with this. Definitely cold enough. Doesn't last long, the -10 ice firm, as you'd expect. The UK is quite a warm island, so it wouldn't last very long. But if winds are in from the north or the northeast, showers could drift further inland. We'll have a look later. Eventually, though, by Sunday into Monday, the high pressure does topple, but it's quite a cold ridge. Quite a lot of cold air trapped underneath, so the -5 line stays in the south and the southeast. It would be quite cold, and definitely possibilities for frost, overnight frost, before another northerly tries to set up. Doesn't quite make it to Greenland though. The cold air goes into other parts of Western Europe, well, Eastern Europe more, Scandinavia, the Nordic regions. The cold air reaches not far off. Wouldn't take much to modify. We'll have a look at the ensembles later. Again, quite settled but quite cold under that area of high pressure, which topples over the top of the country. So won't be particularly mild. Definitely frost and fog potential with that. Could be some quite harsh overnight frost before the ridge topples and we go into more of a typical Atlantic flow, high pressure dominating, and winds more into the west. But it's extended range, and we've got plenty to focus on in the next couple of days. So definitely the potential for some colder air to encroach from the north. And actually, a lot of the GFS runs today on the latest runs, we weren't going from the midnight, but a lot of them on the 12Z. The midday runs are going for another northerly or cold snap around day 10, so around Thursday next week. If we have a look at the air masses, this will show it perfectly. So at the moment, we have a decently cold air mass over the top, so it's bringing a couple of flurries into the north. Again, gets flushed down the toilet by milder air masses for a time before you can see the colder air. There's that low, that deep low, which could produce some quite strong winds. Couple of lows to watch out for there. Could be the next named storm with the D for that very cold northerly approaches, and the -10 line getting in, which is very cold for the time of year. Daytime temps will be quite frigid with that one. Definitely overnight frosts are possible with that. As you can see, the winds are in from the northeast, so you wouldn't be surprised to see any showers drifting further inland before milder air masses do move in. But you can just see the close proximity we are to colder air masses at times. So obviously the devil's in the detail and things might change. Next is a GEM. So I'll look again, very similar at the start point. A bit more southerly tracked with that low pressure and not as strengthened as the GFS. That low's not strengthened either on Thursday into Friday. It's definitely things to watch out for. That high pressure goes get as north. However, it's not as further north as the GFS, and kind of goes up as far as Iceland. So it doesn't bring as cold air in, but it's still pretty cold. For the time, definitely cold enough. -5. Moving in. Not definitely not as potent though, and actually tries to build a Scandinavian high and drags in winds from more of an easterly or northeasterly winds, but not particularly cold to be honest. But yeah, this high pressure needs to get further towards Greenland to bring down the colder air. It just kind of trickles away very easily in this situation. There's not much cold air there to start with, to be honest. It kind of just all fizzles out as this block's not powerful enough to maintain. And we're going to a cold easterly. Definitely showers could be wintry in the south and the east there over hills. But it doesn't last very long before the westerlies look to return. And finally, so that's a bit of a downer run, isn't it? That has been a trend actually in some of the models to put a Scandinavian high or try and build a Scandinavian high and drag in colder air. But it's still to be settled. But we're focusing on this weekend anyway, which looks to be quite cold for most of these runs. The ECM finally actually runs out to 16 days now, so we'll run through it very quickly. Doesn't develop the low as much at all. Just actually develops it into more of a northwesterly wind. Won't be quite cold, obviously there's no cold air there. There's that low, a bit further southwards with the ECM, and then that high pressure does get slightly further northwards than the GEM, bringing down some cold northerly winds. Again, not as much cold air mixing in with the ECM, so it's definitely something to watch out for. But this one does bring in high pressure towards Scandinavia and does start to bring in quite a decently cold easterly. In the longer term, high pressure continues to stay to the west and we'll keep bringing down these cooler northerly winds, but they're not exactly cold. There's not much cold air available. Kind of just on a southerly jet stream, as you can see there. This black line here is the jet stream, and it is sinking southwards, and it's going like this, something like that. That black line is the jet stream though, and it's dipping southwards, which means that we are always on the cold side of a jet and always at risk of cooler air masses moving in. And you can see, look at all that cold air at the end of the run towards Scandinavia. Wow, wouldn't say much to drag in an easterly. Obviously not going to happen, but you never know. Look at all that. There's blocking towards, very weak blocking, as you can see, between Greenland and Scandinavia there. But it's nothing major at all. There is a definite watch, though, between the 17th and the 28th. I've seen some forecasters going on about that, so keep an eye out on it. As you can see, that if I have a look at the ECM run, the 12Z run that is, you can see that the cold air is not as potent as the GFS is, the American, the battle of the European versus the American. The air mass is definitely not as cold because the high pressure is not as far north. This is Birmingham, the GFS suite. The 12Z run we've just looked at. You can see the GFS thick green line there dips quite low. One of the coldest runs on the Ensemble, which is why I said always take it with a grain of salt. But lots of the runs are dipping down to -5 or below. It's definitely the risk of something wintry, especially for a few days. Then the upper air temperatures uptick towards Tuesday into Wednesday before they do drop a little bit again. Another northerly shot is possible there, but remaining cool towards for most of the run actually. Even into the extended range is still colder and below average. Snow, obviously, we're not going to pay attention to, but for Birmingham anyway, there's a couple of snow spikes showing up, but I won't take these too literally. These could be from the easterly, which some of the runs are forecasting, but I won't take it, again, too seriously. Things are changed, but it's just to give you a general idea. 2 metre temperatures are dipping, as you can see, 4 or 5 degrees, but these are not going to be as mild as that if these air masses are moving in. Probably be about 2 or 3 at the surface and maybe 1 or maybe even freezing overnight. Could be quite cold, and the upper air temperatures don't really recover too much with this. Obviously mild at the moment there before dropping away. Just want to show you the ECM charts, the anomalies for the 2nd to the 9th to the 16th of December. And as you can see there, this is obviously a weak chart, so don't take it too literally. But as you can see, there is definitely colder air in Western Europe, and this probably would be colder than this. These anomalies are always quite weak, but if you're getting below average, that's quite a good sign. As you can see, if we look on the 1st, and then before then, if we go there and then Saturday, it was actually going 1 to 3 degrees milder than average, and now, look, it's below average. So that's how quick the models can change. So that's why you can never trust them at first glance or over one day and say, oh, it's going to be cold. You can't always trust it like that. these are the ECM ensembles, so they start today. This is from the Midnight Suite, and they run to day 10, the 12th of the 12th, 12th of December. So 21 have high pressure just to the south of Greenland, actually getting up towards Scandinavia, quite interesting. Low pressure towards France, and winds are in from a north or northeasterly, so looking quite cold. 10 have high pressure out to the west and slightly just to the north. Winds are in from a slack easterly but quite dry. 10 with a proper Greenland block, or mid-Atlantic ridge up towards Greenland. Low pressure towards Scandinavia and winds are in from a cold northerly. And 10 here have high pressure to the north, low pressure to the south, and winds are in from a cold easterly. But obviously could be a risk of milder air from the south. Could be some fun and games with that. At day 10, all options look cold and quite dry actually. I wouldn't say wintry. But how are they looking in 2 weeks' time? Or 16 days if you want to be specific. 14 want to revert back to a westerly flow with low pressure to the north and high pressure to the south. Winds in from the west. 12 want to keep the cold air in place with high pressure towards Greenland and just to the north, and winds around that are coming in from chilly northeasterly, quite dry. 11 build a Scandinavian high with low pressure to the south, but there is a battle going on. High pressure's out to the west. Winds could be in from the westerlies, or it could be from the easterlies. That's a little bit of a battleground situation. I would expect the easterlies to win out with that one, actually, because the Scandinavian high is going to be blocking the low pressures towards Greenland. We've got 9 here, which look very cold as well. High pressure to the west, low pressure to the east, and winds in from a very cold northerly wind. And then 5 with high pressure to the west, again, and low pressure over and to the east of the country. It looks cold and wintry. So it's definitely very interesting to look at in the long term, and also in the coming days. Could be something to watch out for. I do think there will be a time where conditions revert to milder. I am not exactly sure when. Definitely around the middle of the month. I'm not looking out too far. I'm not a long-range forecaster too accurately. I don't take it too seriously. But there is definitely the possibility of it turning colder once again. In the coming days, though, it's going to be around average, picking up above average in temperature-wise, before dropping at the weekend. Could be quite cold, but devil's in the detail. It needs to be sorted out. Thank you all for watching. If you did find this video informative, as always, please do subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you all in the next one.